Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining me for our last festivity of the day, where we get to explore the bridge that connects mines with their communities, and in doing so, the contributions these communities can make towards the DRC's economy. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Laura Cornish. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Mining Review Africa and the Portfolio Director for DRC Mining Week, and I'm your moderator for this session. This topic is of particular importance and relevance to myself and the sector, as we can truly explore how mines give back, not only in building their businesses, but sustainable communities that can effectively contribute towards society. I have the pleasure of welcoming one of the DRC's most prolific mining businesses to this session, Ivanhoe Mines Kamoa Copper, the sponsor of this session, and will be represented by the executive of HSE and Sustainability at Kamoa Copper SA in the DRC, Dr. Guy Muswil. Joining Dr. Guy is Lisl Pullinger. Lisl is an independent advisor to Kamoa Copper on all things related to community and the environment. And having interviewed her before, I promise you a lady that understands this subject extremely well and is going to make for a great conversation. So thank you both for joining me. If anyone from our audience has a question for either Dr. Guy or for Lisl, please feel free to post that in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll bring that into the conversation today. So since I know this subject is close to both of your hearts, I'm going to ask each of you to start with some opening remarks on the topic for this session. And Dr. Guy, I'll start with you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone that's joining this event. My name is Dr. Guy Muswil, as said by Laura, and I'm the Executive Manager for HSE and Sustainability for Kamoa Copper. And as many of you know, Kamoa Copper is a joint venture between Ivanhoe, Zengin, and the government of DRC. It's a copper producer. It's mainly going to the copper green producer, and Kamoa is being to intend to be the second world-class mine within the coming years. And especially for this session, which is mostly talking about sustainability, we just going to let everyone know that this topic is an important ingredient for success, as is the same for our mineral resources and the investment that we're doing in the DRC. This event today, and spend a nice time with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guy. And if I can just congratulate you on that opening video session, it's phenomenal, and just a great mining company and what you guys are doing in the DRC. So thank you very much for your opening remarks. And I will hand over to Lisl to give her thoughts on our topic that we're going to be discussing for the next hour. Lisl.
Thank you, Laura. And what a pleasure to be here and see my colleague, Dr. Guy, again, and also you. I took an interesting career change about 3-4 years ago. I left Ivanhoe Mines, where I worked as a full-time employee, and I went into the consulting world. And this has given me great perspective as to the large-scale changes happening in the mining industry at the present time. Not only is ESG, environmental, social, and governance as a construct or a concept rising rapidly, but the S in ESG seem to be popping out even more. And finally, we are asking the difficult questions in mining out loud. It's not the questions are not asked anymore behind closed boardrooms. We are actually facing the issues and talking out loud in public with our host communities. How do we create shared value? How do we ensure that that the host communities in mining is really deriving benefit, not only from employment, but also from secondary and tertiary sources, which the mine enables. So looking back, on my journey within Ivanhoe mines and particularly Kamoa, I the lessons learned from Kamoa in this space with regards to community development is phenomenal. And Dr. Gee has definitely been one of my mentors in this space. I've learned a lot from him. And what I appreciate about Kamoa, and especially that is being enabled by being placed in the DRC, what I appreciate is the not being scared to try new things, to try new models of community development, to try new ways of doing old things. So looking forward to explore these topics a little bit more with you and Guy today.
Thank you so much, Lisl, and the opening remarks that both of you have shared just make me feel so excited for this topic. It's such a close one to my heart as well. So I'm really excited to explore it, and I love the openness that you're saying, Lisl, the mining industry is doing and embracing with regards to this topic. And we covered the E of ESG earlier in the day, and I'm excited now that we get to cover the S. So, Dr. Gee, we're going to jump straight into a stimulating conversation. I've got lots of great questions for both of you. But let me start, Dr. Gee, with the concept of corporate social responsibility, because in my opinion, ultimately, that is the S of ESG. And when we talk about corporate social responsibility, Dr. Gee, it really does refer to community development investment. And I'm wondering, today, is it still seen as a political requirement in most cases? And what is Kamoa Copper's views on community investment, obviously in the DRC, and perhaps more specifically on the back of COVID-19?
Well, Laura, as you know, the CSR concept has been genuinely known as a deliberate inclusion of public interest and into the corporate decision making. And this is actually the honoring of triple P bottom line, which are people, the planet, and the profit. But today, with the CSR rating, many companies have incorporated into their corporate positioning. It's becoming like part of their politics. And for Kamoa, if I want to talk about my company, we believe on shared value. And the community investment is, as I said at the beginning, a crucial part of our SLO, social license to operate driving pillars. And specifically in a country like DRC, where basic infrastructure are missing in rural area, it makes that perception much critical too. So Kamoa, just to talk a little bit of what we're doing, is investing into community within in various domain: education, health, agriculture, water, entrepreneurship, and so on. And it did it even well before it went into commercial production. So just to go through some CSR investment that we made so far. We have went through this establishing 5 school at very good standards. So the student who are living in that village cannot be complex compared to the student living in the urban area. And we have already started establishing boreholes because water has been one of the key issues that's been raised by the community when we're doing our stakeholder engagements. And the particular of that is they are equipped, the solar equipped with solar pump. So it's with the reticulation, it gives you the impression that you're living in a very developed area because you go right at the tap and you get your water. It's not matter of using the pedal or the manual pump anymore. It's a tap and you get your water, and it's clean water which has been regularly tested to make sure that it's for good quality. And we have a brilliant program that we call livelihood program, and one of our FAR program there is the fish pond. I know Lisl will know it very well. She's visited a couple of times. Today, we have managed to assist the community to set up more than 100 fish ponds. And all of these are actually managed by the community themselves. And if I want to talk more in terms of investments, we have established what we call a cahier de charges. It's a legal requirement. It's kind of agreement between us and the community where we stipulated that which project are we going to funding for the 5 coming years. And it's a program that pledged for $8.6 million for the coming 5 years. Now, coming on the COVID topic, as you know, it haven't spared no one. We have been touched as well, it's spread the community as well. So Kamoa has managed to set up a robust proactive response to the pandemic. But on top of that, we have provided assistance to local community with rapid tests and medication. And our hospital were open to any people from the community who have severe cases, because we have a very, very well equipped ICU in the mine, where we're receiving even people from outside the community especially. So this is kind of assistance that we provide, and on top there was we keep doing sensitization within the community to create awareness for community about this new pandemic. That's how what I can for now say about CSR as we see it into Kamoa.
Thank you, Dr. Guy. And clearly you are giving back to the community in so many ways. And, you know, from my perspective, it's something that the mine wants to do, not something that the mine has to do. And that's what's so important.
Yeah.
Lisl, if I can bring you into the conversation, and specifically in your advisory role capacity, just wondering what your thoughts are about mining houses still viewing community development as a grudge investment. And again, from your perspective, how does Kamoa copper differ?
So Laura, this is really a hot topic right now, and for sure. And what I'm seeing in the industry across countries, in South Africa definitely, but right up from Niger, Zambia, Mozambique, down here to the south of Africa, is companies are very aware of the regulatory requirements, but whereas that was the driving force, there is different channels of driving forces joining this regulatory incentive to do social investment. And those driving forces are different ones. One of them is definitely financiers and investors becoming a lot more sophisticated in what they require in projects that they will put their money towards. That's becoming a driver of change. If you want to build this mine, you do it right. Otherwise, I'm not interested. The other driving force, and this is being driven also by the fourth industrial revolution, is that host communities themselves are becoming a lot more sophisticated, a lot more connected, and they are a lot more aware of the national resource conversation. This is our country. We are the hosts. And how do we work together with the mine? So there's different driving forces. And at the center of this is the mining industry, which, bless its heart, really wants to do the right thing, but doesn't always know exactly how. So my observation, and I'm going to tie it in with Kamoa shortly, is that the old model of community development said, no, we go and we do a needs analysis, we identify what we think are needed, and that is what we will provide. Now we've done our job. Now that paradigm shift, that paradigm needs to shift to, I am consulting with the community. I am seeing which assets there are already. And instead of just building infrastructure like roads or buildings, etc., I'm starting to ask myself, which things are the enablers of further development? And this is where I can tie in with what Dr. Guy was saying. In our day and age, and especially in Africa, water is one of the biggest enablers of development. Not only does it enable a healthy lifestyle, but it also enables different kinds of micro enterprises, whether it's agriculture, etc., etc. So water is one of those. The other one that Dr. Gee mentioned is education. But their sustainable education, a school building isn't enough. Empowered, supported teachers are needed to move that forward. So to invest more in the ability of people to improve their own lives, that's where the mining industry are slowly shifting to get away from the concept of benefits to the and moving over to the concept of opportunities. There's an opportunity to create shared value instead of just handing out benefits.
Love that answer, Lisl, and I'm glad you touched on the area of sort of technology, and we're definitely going to explore that in this conversation as well a little later. So keep your ears open for that. But we've touched on something that's really sort of a key to this whole discussion, which is about self-sustaining communities. So, Dr. Gee, obviously the short-term goal for any community investment does lie in benefits that the mine experiences. But as I've said, that true example is offering guidance that helps communities become self-sustaining, particularly in the long run when the mine closes, for example. So do you want to unpack in greater detail, Dr. Gee, how does this statement reflect Kamoa Copper's community strategy?
Well, we totally agree with that statement because we believe on long-term investment into the community. Because when you talk about sustainability, it's things that shall remain even beyond the mine life. And then Kamoa vision is to see community lives completely uplift through substantial transformation. And we have a sustainability strategy called Give Chance. Just give chance to the community to be uplifted, to be part of the pride that you have to invest incredibly in a company, in a country, and make real change. If you don't give chance to the people, then nothing will happen. And our program, what we call Give Chance, it's incorporate human education and put it at the center of a real transformation. That's why Kamoa has set up an education program to upskill the local community from the early childhood until the tertiary education, thus enhancing youth productivity towards active life within community and beyond into general society. So the program like early child development, cadetship, literacy, Head Start sponsorship, just for information, we have a program that we're setting up with Laurentian University in Canada for people who will be coming from this mine footprint. And we have a recent program that we call Kipaji, which is employee development. All those programs have potential to ensure good seed is sown, ensuring sustainable economic development for a resilient community. So some of the development pillar that we have includes a very exciting program that have recently been introduced. Maybe you heard about. It's called Center of Excellence. It's a university which will provide tertiary education with high university standards to our youth from Kolwezi and from the mine footprint. And this is an incredible program. Just for giving an example of investment, it's going through the 5 years, and every year we're investing $2 million to set up the infrastructure and the necessary amnesties to make that happen. We have another program that it's entrepreneurship. It is basically a program to create businessmen and women from the local communities. Because as you know, we cannot employ everybody, but everybody deserves to have a chance of his life. So taking opportunity of what we need as a mine and link that with the creation of local business is a huge, an incredible, an incredible part of the mine life that we live, and we are already seeing, the outcome of that. We have various domains that community are building their business in clothing. So all the overalls that the mine will be using will be coming from ladies that has been trained on sewing from the community. We have a brick factory that's making paves and brick for material. And mine, part of the big investment into construction. So the community have set up a company called Tujenge, which is providing bricks to the mine for the construction. And it's a real investment that will stay because it's an open market and they can sell that bricks to anyone who wants it in Kolwezi or in the surrounding community. And we have another program, just to make it short, which we call the livelihood program. This program is mostly made of increasing the production on crop vegetables, fruits, fish, chicken, meats, and it's part of activity which will provide sustainable wealth to the community. So just to name, just shortly to name a couple of projects that we're doing and for which we think are linked to long-term perspective in terms of community investment.
Dr. Guy, by comparison with some of the very more mature, well-established mines in the DRC, Kamoa is quite a new mine, and you wouldn't say it by the initiatives that you're already implementing for communities. You would think that you've been there for the longest time. It's actually really quite impressive. And I know you're just touching on some of these, and I'm sure there's so much more. So thank you. And we'll get into more of those as we go through the conversation. Lisl, if I can get your viewpoint on that topic of self-sustainability, because you touched on it. It's one thing to give a school. It's another thing to empower teachers to be able to teach in that school. Why, Lisl, is it so important that mines understand this concept of self-sustainability for communities?
Laura, this is a topic that I can just go on and on. So I'll try and be brief. Just to zoom out a little bit again to the rest of the industry. I had recently had to do some research for the United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification. And one of the topics that I was looking into is in the SADC region, of which the DRC is part, the most northern part, how many closed and abandoned mines are there? Now, it sounds like a very simple question. Surely there's a database somewhere that we can find that information. But it proved to be very difficult to find. But what I did find is that in South Africa, there is between 4,000 and 6,000 closed and abandoned mines. So multiply that by 16 countries, 16 SADC countries. And that's not even remotely accurate, but you'll get an idea of, how many mining projects, operational mines go into a cycle of growth and then have to close, either because of conflict in the region, the commodity cycles that are uncertain, big crises like the COVID pandemic. I personally know of quite a few operations that were put into care and maintenance over the COVID times, in the thick of the lockdowns. So it's very hard to imagine when you watch one of Kamoa's update videos that come out every month. It's very hard to imagine that there will be an end to this, because it's big and it's happening and it's exciting. But the reality in Africa showed us that minerals, it's a finite resource. We are guests there. We might be guests there. The mine might be a guest there for 50 years, but it will remain a guest. And the people that live there, the people that were there before the resources were found, they are our hosts. And it's extremely important that in how we develop, we are able to leave them in a better place than they were before the mine started. So just within the context of the region, I found those statistics very sobering. What I've seen in project managers implementing social development projects, and I think this is one place where Kamoa shines, is if you want to move fast with project implementation in a community, you have your checklist, you do it according to all the good project management principles, and you can move fast. But if you want to move far, you do it slower. You make sure that if you develop that nursery, let's say they're establishing a tree nursery or a fruit tree nursery. If you establish that fruit tree nursery, the participants from the community are involved from the very beginning in getting the quotes for the seedlings, in knowing how much the spades cost. I'm going down to that granular level because that is what it means to establish a self-sustainable project. So that from the beginning of the project, then at the back end of the project, and Dr. Guy alluded to this through the Tujenge brick making factory, is to ensure that there's economic diversification. I think in the DRC, there is a long history of a paradigm of dependency on the mining industry. It came from the Jacobins days and the way that more patriarchal mines are doing their business and their community development. And that is also a growth curve and a learning curve, a paradigm shift for the communities to understand I am taking responsibility for my own economic future. Yes, the mine might enable it. Yes, I might have reached out my hand and take up an opportunity, but my future is my responsibility. And I think the way that Kamoa is engaging with their community members, the way that from the very beginning, the first time I set foot in Kamoa was in 2012. Already then, it was just exploration, only drill rigs. And already then, there was community development committees that could advise on what's the path that we would want to take. So I think Kamoa's great competitive advantage in this space is really having been able, from a greenfield project into a mine, having the buy-in from senior management, from investors, from shareholders, to be able to spend on community development and really invest deeply from the beginning.
Lisl, from the words of an independent source, I mean, the work that Kamoa is doing is clearly on another level, and I'm really enjoying hearing about it. And I think it's great how you shared about the necessity to get down to that granular level and get the community involved from the beginning. I think a lot of mining companies forget that that's maybe the starting point for success with any community project is to start at the very beginning. So loving that element to our conversation, Lisl. Thank you very much. You've both touched on so many great initiatives that Kamoa is doing. Dr. Guy, is there any other initiatives in the community that you'd like to highlight as part of the session? And is there a way to demonstrate how those projects are delivering economic value for the DRC?
Well, Laura, yes, I would like to show you some example of projects that we've done. But before that, I really want to come back on what Lisl was actually explaining now, and you can see how passionate she is when she explains all those stuff, because it's actually coming from the heart. And that's the same, that this is a culture that we have in Kamoa. Is the first exciting community work that we did within the community is not establishing project. It was firstly building the trust, because you cannot imagine how difficult it was at the beginning, starting from a greenfield with such bad legacy that the mining industry had at that time was perceived that it plunders. It's just come to take our minerals and leave us with holes. That was how the industry, the mining industry, was perceived. So starting on this kind of field was not easy. And thanks to the management, because they believe on what we told them, and we get their consent to start investing earlier. So to build that trust, we pass through pillars, four of them that I can name. One was the environmental stewardship, just to make sure that everything that we do, whenever during the exploration or during the operation, are really taking care of the environment. The second was the stakeholder engagement, to make sure that the people of interest with whom we're engaging are taken abreast of what we're doing, and we collect all the concern that they have and integrate it into our decision making. So everything that concerns the community is part of the decision that we're doing. And third was the social performance. Shared value from the beginning. What we're getting as investment for the exploration. Exploration, I'm not talking even operation, exploration. We're sharing it with the community through different various of projects. And finally, the transparency and accountability. Everything that we're doing, we're reporting to the community. We get them informed. As Lisl said, what is the cost of the shed that we're using? What is the cost of the seedling that we're getting into a project? So they understand that there's an investment in and they need to take care of. That's how we build the trust within the community. And that's trust built as take us to set up a strategy, then streamlined for 15 years as midterm plan. And part of them, we actually divided in three stages, 5 years of each. The first one was related to the need, the first need that we see in the community. It was food production, because there was no food. The people was poor. What the mean of start putting schools and very nice infrastructure, and the people are not able to pay the fees for the children to go to that school. So help them now first to start creating, wealth through what they are they are used to do, which was the agriculture. That's why we established firstly the project that we called livelihood. And second level was the improvement of the household revenue. Once everyone knows how to start making money, how do we improve the production so it's substantial money that they're making and they can be able to not only having food but paying the fees for the school, paying the fees for the medication, paying the fees for all different candidates that they are facing in their life. And third is the entrepreneurship and cooperative. Level up much more what they are doing in creating kind of small scale business that will spread around the wealth within the rest of the community. That's how we operate. Now, if I have to name some of the projects that we established so far, I've already talked about the fish ponds. Yeah, for to date we have 140 fish ponds that has been set up, and 100 more are under construction as we speak now. So if I just want to take what's the harvest value of each of the ponds, it's almost a ton of tilapia a year, and we're talking about producing 230 240 tons of tilapia a year, and that's worth literally $840,000. And that's all this money it kept by 25 little company. If for them, they use it for different values that they have and to reinvest into a scale up of that program. And the new thing that we have introduced a new category, a new variety, which is the catfish, just because it's a variety that's bringing more value and more benefits, and it's actually going to triplicate the revenue that they're going to have the hospital. We have another program that Lisl mentioned, the Tujeng, the brick factory. Those people are making every month $19,000 minimum. And sometimes it goes up to double and triple, depending on the demand that is coming to us. And it's an open market. And what is exciting, part of the people, the 19 people, 6 are women. And all those women are coming from the local community. Some of them are part of the resettled people. Can you imagine how we have transformed the life of those people who was only subsistence farming, and now today they are business women. It's an incredible change. I can mention some other project that we have that we are proud of. It's a project called Bustani. Bustani is a landscaping program. All the landscaping that we're putting in the mine here has been done by a company owned by local community. Same for the gardening program. So we're trying to show a message to the community that they can put us as a mining company in a much better condition by the service that they're providing to us. It get them more to be more empowered, and it's breaking the complex to be a community close to a pig mining, because we actually interacting every time, and they're coming in the mine, they're working with us, and they can improve our lifestyle. If the community can improve your lifestyle, you can see how, you can imagine how big is that impact in their life. So there's many of them that I can mention. I'll just nominating some of them because the benefits of time, and just to tell you that on top of that, what I want to mention is we have started already paying royalties to the communities. Part of that is going to the local community, and we're talking about million of dollars that we're putting every month in the community and the whole DRC. So all that is going to anyway impact the economy of the company of the country. And if it's well managed, I think within in the coming 5 years, the coming 10 years, everyone will come in Kamoa will even not know that there was villages existing here, because we find a different type of lifestyle around the mine. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Guy, and it's great to hear about the wealth that has been generated through these initiatives. Obviously, that's the economic upliftment piece that we're looking for in this conversation. I love that you spoke about, communities before the mine. If other mines could learn to do the same, wouldn't we all just be in a much better place? I just think that's really phenomenal. And also the importance of teaching your community what you're doing at the mine. I think they love that involvement, and they love to know what's going on. Because as we said, or as Lisl has pointed out so many times, those are our hosts in our countries that we operate in. Lisl, Dr. Guy's given such phenomenal examples, and I know you're so close to the project. Are there any particular key community initiatives that Kamoa is doing that really stand out for you?
So Laura, if you allow me, I'm going to answer this on 2 levels. I'm going to answer on a micro level and a macro level. So on a micro level, Dr. Guy talked about women affected by mining. And when the narrative of women in mining, the well-known narrative is we want to work in the mine, we want to be part of the technical team, etc. But I'm on a bit of a different hobby horse at the moment, and that is women are affected by mining far beyond the workplace. So I want to tell you the story of Mama Funda. I met Mama Funda, I think, in 2012 during my first visit there, and she had a few hectares of maize. She had a kikwembe, and she was barefoot in her fields, and that's when I met her. And over the past 10 years, I have seen Mama Funda time and time and time again. She grew from being a subsistence farmer in a community that was about 2 hours by land cruiser from the Kamoa camp. The roads are much better now. So it's a lot quicker to get there. But eventually she joined the Livelihoods program, and she became an agricultural extension worker, to the point that over the years, as I saw her every time when I went on a site visit, One day I got there and it wasn't the Mama Funda in the Kikembe that I remembered. She was dressed in full mine uniform. She had her eye tested and she needed glasses. Her nails was done very nicely and a very nice hairdo, showing how she is able to look after herself and invest in herself more and more. Had a conversation with her a few years back. She said, no, Lisl, my farm is still going. I'm employing people and I have expanded my farm. And I am now able to pay for the school fees of my children and my grandchildren. And because I pay my farmers a salary, they can pay the school fees of their children. So through this micro view of Mama Funda, I just want to illustrate that sometimes it's not the breadth of projects that we need to look at. Sometimes it's the depth of just one person's life and how it has been transformed. And then instead of talking more about projects that Guy knows a lot more than I do, I'm going to just highlight 3 or 4 themes that if I'm reading the signs right, these things are emerging in the social development space. At Kamoa, yes, maybe I'm not at liberty to say, but definitely in the industry. And the one of them is a strengthening of the local procurement program. Recently had a in-depth workshop with some of the decision makers at Kamoa about that, and it's definitely an area where they are working very hard to bring improvements. So not only is it very regulated in the DRC, but across the world, globally, there's more and more and more attention on supply chains. What is happening in your supply chain, mining company? So that's the one area. The second area is climate change resilience and how community development programs have to take cognizance and be implemented to help make communities more resilient to the impacts of climate change. The third one is citizens monitoring programs and more enviro entrepreneurial programs that I see emerging in the green space. And then the fourth one, it's another one of those that I'm very passionate about, is to ensure that when we report on E and S and G, we don't just report upwards, but we report with a 360 view. Say, what I often see, Laura and Guy, and this is really concerning to me, is that the people most affected by the mining operations are least informed about ESG performance. And that is something that I'm on a mission to change. 360 view of reporting, all the stakeholders should know. And to Guy's point, that they give regular feedback within the context of where the mine is situated. So I wanted to give a sneak preview of the things that I think might be in the pipeline in the community development and stakeholder engagement space. Yeah, over to you.
Lisl, thank you. And it's so funny because I think mines are so busy worrying about their ESG reporting to their investors that perhaps sometimes they forget to, as you say, share that information with their communities as well as with those investments and those shareholders. So another great point coming out from this conversation. I'm just so enjoying it. Dr. Guy, you've done so much already, but as we've said and as you've pointed out, Kamoa is a very big, long life asset. It's got, great potential well into the future. So, how does that fit into Kamoa's community strategy as well? There's obviously so much that you can do over the lifetime of such a phenomenal asset.
Well, Laura, I've tried to explain our Streamline for 15 years strategy, but yes, indeed, the mine is a much longer life asset that we have, and we do have a plan for the future. Currently, what we're doing is what we're calling the pool program. That what I actually explained on community social amnesty, school, health facilities, water borough, cultural centers, sport facility, everything that I mentioned, which are listed into the cahier de charge, and the livelihood program, which is mostly linked to the agriculture or related agriculture activities. And we have in the other side what we call the push program, and that encompasses around entrepreneurship, community entrepreneurship, like on top of what I've already mentioned. We're planning to have vehicle servicing, washing facilities for the trucks, for the vehicles that we have that will be owned by the company. We're trying to scale up our husbandry on putting up assisting port community to put up piggery and cattle farming and so on. There's many of them that we have listed that we anger to start getting into implementation. But in the near future, what we think that can be our next step, we'll basically need to see how to scale up that entrepreneurship to transform the SMEs, become medium scale company with a very big portfolio and very elaborated skills people that can do even services into the mine for specialized services. And we have a training center in our premises that is able to train people and provide all those special skills to the community. And we have a program that we call cadetship program, which is able to transfer skill from someone who knows nothing to become an operator. So this kind of stuff can be done within the community, and will create a nursery of community people who are able to deliver service. And the company that we're creating with the community can make use of those skills actually to build their own company and provide service to the mine. That's where we're going. And on top of that, we have scaled up the level of livelihood program in creating what we call the community leader farmers. The community leader farmers kind of people doing real farming program. It's not that little stuff. No, we're talking about hectares of fields, hectares and variety of different kind of a product that a company can make use of or can buy from, and how to feed Kolwezi. We're not talking about Mindfront now. We're talking about the town of Kolwezi, where is we have more than 5 million people living there, and how are we making plan to make sure that the product that the community are producing here reached out those people there. So we need to put bridges and create linkage of markets. How we'll be approaching, either approaching the consumers to the producer, or taking the product up to the market, is things that we're still thinking on. And eventually to make that becoming much effective, we are considering maybe assisting the electrification of the community. Once we reach out to the level of having enough electricity for us to develop or to run the mine and the smelt and all the facility that we set up, we're pretty sure that we can assist the community to have that ingredient, which is very critical for to scale up the development within the community. So this is a vision that we have, and we as well considering the boost of an integrated town. Is think on a paper, but we've already started considering it seriously. If you can assist to boost the development of integrated town around the mine, because this is a part of our immigrant management control, to avoid heavy mushrooming of this kind of township as a chaos around the mine. We need to make the difference in the DRC, and we know that we're going to do it. So this is up to outline how we think in terms of long term for community investment.
Sure, Dr. Gee, there's just no end in sight to the things that Kamoa is doing. It's just absolutely phenomenal work. Definitely an example by which other miners can follow. And I just can't believe it. The session is going so quickly. The conversation has just been so stimulating. Lisl, I've got one more for yourself, if maybe you can just keep to about 2 or 3 minutes in answering this. But, the importance of technology in communities, because that's where the world is going. Suddenly technology has become center stage. It's a catalyst as a result of COVID. How important is it for mining companies to consider the role that technology plays in building sustainable communities?
Oh, Laura, another one of those, and you only give me 2 minutes.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just joking. So, like electricity, technology or the ability to connect to Wi-Fi is an enabler for growth and for development. And because the online world has no boundaries, the opportunities to be able to start digital businesses once a host community is connected is there's just no limit to what people can do in taking ownership of their own future in a digital manner. So I think the way I read the industry at the moment, they're very scared of this new area of development. They're not quite sure how to implement. I know that Dr. Gee and team is busy with some kiosk development, thinking around how can we do it in a place where even cell phone connectivity is patchy and there's no electricity in the community. So it's an evolving area, and my prediction is that in 10 years, 15 years time, a mining house is going to say, how can we not enable our host communities digitally? So watch this space.
Excellent. Absolutely a critical element of any community initiative is that role that technology has to play. So important to bring that into the discussion. So we are 5 minutes out from closing the session, and I'd like to ask you, Dr. Gee, for your closing remarks, your key takeaways from what has been a really phenomenal and interesting conversation today about something so important for the mining industry.
Yeah, okay. Laura, Kamoa is a responsible company, as I said, and it's caring seriously about community development and its people. And we believe that our development and wealth creation shall definitely bring shared value to the local community, which has been living in legacy profound poverty. Today, the situation is being significantly improved by offering locals long-term and decent employment and the community investment provided so far. We know that we can do more, and we are going to do it along the mine life. We are committed to transform lives, and we are going to transform them. Because eradicating poverty is no longer a charity, but it's justice. Thank you.
How do you follow on from that, Dr. Gee? That's just so brilliant. I would like to ask Lisl if she has any closing remarks. Lisl, can you top the excellence that Dr. Gee has just ended us with?
I'm not even going to try. So my thoughts are copper, cobalt, minerals that are abundant in DRC. It's driving the green energy revolution. We're going to need more and more and more of it. The stats are staggering. And kudos to Kamoa in extracting these minerals in a responsible way, in a way that the citizens of the DRC are being empowered and there's wealth being shared and not just everything taken out of the country. That is no small feat if you consider that East meets West right in Kamoa. It's a multicultural, multinational company that is committed together to do things in the responsible way.
Dr. Guy, Lisl, in all honesty, this has been my favorite session of our DRC Mining Week Festival. I'm truly inspired by the work that Kamoa is doing, and from an independent perspective like Lisl's, to have that cemented and agreed upon, it's just excellent. So I just want to say a big thank you to both of you for participating in this session, and a big thank you to Kamoa for sponsoring the session and for putting out there the importance that the mine plays when it comes to community development. And unfortunately, that is a wrap for our session and a wrap for our digital event. And I would just like to invite our audience to stay tuned. Myself and my colleague Sabrina are going to do a quick roundup of the key highlights that have come through from our digital events. So do stay tuned for that. Thanks, Dr. Guy. Thanks, Lisl.
Thanks, Laura, for being a very good moderator.
Thanks, Laura. Stay well.
Cheers both. I enjoyed it. Sabrina, I'm almost sad to say that this 2-day digital celebration and festival is at an end, and it certainly did end on a high note. But don't you want to share with our audience, Sabrina, what were the absolute highlights for you from the last 2 days?
Thank you so much, Laura. Yeah, it went by so fast, actually, 2 days wrap up. I think this last session was absolutely brilliant. So it almost would take my first place. But I think if I have to choose one, I must say I was really impressed by the session with USAID and global communities. I loved particularly the testimonial from Mr. Bodika, who's a Congolese mine owner. I think what I loved about it the most was that he really has chosen the approach of compassion and empathy when it comes to like the interaction with local communities. And I think it goes back a bit to the session that we just had now. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic. And I think it also showed that what we refer to as illegal mining, or les creuseurs in French, like you mentioned, it is not necessarily black or white. I remember him stressing that they feel at home, and that really struck me. So, and it turns out that his example was like a success and mutually beneficial. So I really love that presentation. But there's many other moments that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed the one-on-ones with the players of the sector. So it's been really great to celebrate and to take that approach that's really positive and like reflect on actually our achievements, other than just talking about the plans for the future. So really happy to have been part of it. And Laura, can I ask you then, I think you've mentioned you love this session, but what were your highlights?
Look, I think the reception from the DRC mining industry to sort of celebrate at the end of the year has just been phenomenal. It's so exciting to take a different approach to talking about the wins and successes in the DRC. I think the concept itself is a win, and something that I hope we can definitely do more of in the future. I think a few highlights for me, and obviously the community element from the USAID Global Community session and the Kamoa session is one that's really close to my heart, and I hope that the rest of our audience feel the same. But I enjoyed the investor session, and he highlighted that a conglomerate like Tesla is connecting with Glencore, and if the likes of Tesla are coming into the DRC, then there's no limit to just how amazing the DRC can be seen on the global map. And I'm really excited to see where the DRC is going next. And I think Telesol and the connectivity and the communication initiatives that they're doing and the work that they're doing with governments is phenomenal. And again, another win for the DRC. And I think that EV battery market talking points and how the DRC is going to play a critical role in that regard is again another win. So there were no shortage of wins. from the beginning right to the end. And I'm just so glad that we could share these with our DRC audience. And yeah, that would be a wrap from me, Sabrina, and I'll hand it over to you to officially close off our session and close off our event.
Thanks so much, Laura. I totally agree with your picks as well, actually. But yeah, I think that wraps up the 2 days. Thank you so much to our audience for having been part of this year-end festival. Stay tuned on this platform. You can also rewatch all the sessions on demand. We know you might have been interrupted by work duty. So if you haven't watched everything, you can go back in your own time. And yeah, I also want to invite you to follow DRC Mining Week on social media, as well as Mining Review Africa. We'll keep you tuned on the latest industry news, but also on our upcoming plans for DRC Mining Week. As you all know, we love this digital gathering, but we love even more being on site. So we're looking forward to meeting in Lubumbashi with the sector again. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, everyone.